This is NHK World Documentary Service, your window into the history, culture, and politics of Japan. Today, we feature the contribution of Japanese software developers to what's known worldwide as a famous American video game, NBA Jam. When I was first introduced to the design for the project, I didn't want to get involved. We still had copies of older basketball games around the office, like the original Intellivision basketball. I felt that all the technical problems had already been solved. Moreover, the basic design for the game as it was presented to me, it seemed like a step in the wrong direction. Years earlier, Sega had made a chibi game called Basketball Nightmare. In it, the camera zoomed in to give you a dynamic view of the player as he made a basket. NBA Jam just seemed in every way like a step in the wrong direction. But then, the director of the project took me aside and explained to me the psychology of the game, that this was, in its way, a protest against the American tradition of Puritanism. When I was first assigned to the project, I fundamentally didn't understand why there were only 2 players on each side, and to be honest, I suppose, I still don't. How were we supposed to compete when every other game on the market gave you the whole team, 5 players on each side? They sent someone over from marketing to explain the psychological, sexual theory behind it. I never quite could wrap my head around it. Although few fans of the series realize it now, NBA Jam was originally the brainchild of a group of psychology professors from a liberal arts college in rural New York State. Their objective, ultimately, was not to simulate the sport of basketball, but to challenge the social norms surrounding monogamy and the nuclear family. This was 1993, when even in San Francisco, simpler forms of entertainment like the soapbox derby were far more popular than polyamory, a term that remained largely confined to academic departments of psychology and gender studies. In the beginning, we thought our biggest problem was going to be that the Japanese creative team was unfamiliar with the predominantly American sport of basketball. But in fact, the deeper problem was that they really didn't get the erotic subtext of the game. We had a lot of communication problems in the first 3 months of the project. To be honest with you, I can't say it was a translation problem at all. We would receive these long, strange lectures from the professors that would be translated word for word into Japanese, but we were all left wondering, what exactly does this basketball game have to do with this critique of traditional Christian marriage, and whatever these concepts were that they were so interested in, polygamy, open relationships, or what have you. After about 3 months, the marketing department stepped in. The vice president of marketing put it to me this way. Imagine 2 businessmen here in Tokyo. They go out for drinks at a karaoke parlor where they're cheating on their wives. What game can they really play together? 2 men, 2 girls at a karaoke bar. And it suddenly struck me that it was true. We really had a lot of games already that were one-on-one. But here was a game that could bring together pairs of people, or rather odd combinations. So I started to catch on to what the marketing department was interested in doing. Maybe I never understood the theory behind it all. You can't understand the game entirely in terms of what's seen on screen. The joystick itself is a phallic object. Psychologically, the player, who is presumably a small, weak, white man, or possibly Asian, is controlling these tremendous black Goliaths, these natural leaders of our society, these men who are not only physically superior to the player, but economically superior, sexually superior as well. They are reduced to being puppets in the hands of the players, and those players have their hands quite literally on a phallic object. I've certainly heard that theory that the game is fundamentally about penis size. Like when you hold the controls, you know this basketball player on screen. He has a bigger cock than you. He has more money than you. He has fucked more beautiful blonde women than you've gotten those little fucking Folgers coffee crystals stuck in your teeth. You know what I mean? When the coffee is not hot enough and you stir it, there's still that fucking crystal, and you're like, crunch, crunch, you know what I mean? You know, maybe it's like that for like the gay or bisexual community. I didn't feel that way about it at all. Although NBA Jam is celebrated in gender studies and amongst third wave feminists in academia generally, the truth is it has a mixed legacy, both in the United States and here in Japan. Many of the software developers involved with the project were themselves religious, conservative people. It created a great deal of dissension in the video game industry and sparked debates that are still ongoing amongst feminist game developers to this day. Yeah, I was in San Francisco at that time, man. 1993, when that NBA Jam arcade cabinet came out. Just an amazing time to be sucking dick, you know. Just felt lucky to be alive. The minute that hit the streets, I think everyone in the polyamory, open relationship, kink, BDSM communities, they all picked up on the vibe. That's the first time we really felt seen by the video game industry, by the computer software industry in any way. We could lay our hands on it and really feel like this was made for us. You know, this wasn't children's entertainment, and this wasn't made for, like, you know, black people in the ghetto who like basketball. You know, this was really by liberal arts majors for left-wing liberal arts majors. And for me, you know, that really meant something. Both in discussing the arcade game and the various home ports, the left-wing perspective emphasizes that this has brought people together, that it has created new couples, new polyamorous relationships with 3, 4, or many members. Although that's true, that would tend to overlook the extent to which the game has also ruined marriages, that it's caused people to break up and get divorced. I definitely think we need to have a balanced approach to this in academia, even if that approach can neither be entirely conservative nor liberal. The significance of NBA Jam for people who really practice polyamory, it's much greater than outsiders realize. People tend to imagine that polyamory as a process is isolated single individuals meeting each other 2, 3, 4 at a time just to hook up. What you realize once you start living the lifestyle is that it primarily consists of married men or men who are in committed relationships that are just as serious as marriage, trying to steal other men's wives, other men's boyfriends, trying to communicate to them. Look, bitch, if I may. Look, bitch, you would be better off with me as my secondary partner than staying with him as his primary partner. So to put this in terms that the Japanese audience might find easy to understand, it's saying, I am in no way willing to divorce my wife, to give up my girlfriend, but nevertheless, I want you to denigrate yourself, to lower yourself to the level of merely being my concubine. For a guy like me, and for anyone coming out of the scene in San Francisco at that time, it's almost like there were 2 periods of my autobiography, before and after 4-player NBA Jam.